As most of you probably know, President-elect Trump has chosen me to be his ambassador to Israel. If the Senate agrees and confirms me, that means I'm going to be packing up in a matter of weeks. Now, you don't need a primer from me on Israel's challenges. You see and you read stories about those challenges for over a year now. But we do have a unique viewpoint to explore today with a guest who has been lobbying on Israel's behalf for many years. He knows the personalities and the problems, and I intend to, pick his brain for the next 20 minutes. Matt Brooks is the Chief Executive Officer of the Republican Jewish Coalition. He's been raising funds, promoting candidates, and speaking out fearlessly. He's truly my kind of guy and a good friend. Matt, I consider this conversation somewhat of a tutorial for me, so we're going to jump right into it. I think it's fair to say that we are at a very critical juncture in America's relationship with Israel. Joe Biden, Donald Trump, both like to describe themselves as Israel's best friend. Are both of them the best friend? And if not, who really is?
Well, Governor, first of all, thank you for having me. It sounds like you're a bit under the weather, so I hope you have a speedy recovery by the time you have to come before the vultures on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. So we need you at 100%. But if I could just, before I answer your question, if I could just filibuster for 1 second and just say how thrilled I am and how thrilled the Republican Jewish Coalition and quite frankly, anybody who loves and cares deeply about Israel is thrilled with your appointment and the vision of President Trump to select you. I have no doubt, having worked with the entire pantheon of former Israeli ambassadors for the last several decades, that you are going to do a spectacular job. Both you and your secret weapon, the First Lady, Janet, are going to take Israel by storm, and you're going to make an important difference, not just in terms of strengthening the U.S. Israel relationship, but being a principled defender, unwavering defender of the Jewish people across the globe. So I am thrilled by your appointment and super excited to work with you. And as to your question before, there is only one pro-Israel president, and that's Donald J. Trump. From 2016 to 2020, he was the most pro-Israel president ever in history. I would argue that Joe Biden was one of the least pro-Israel presidents ever in history. And I have zero doubt that the team of Trump and Huckabee together will not just make America great again, but make Israel great again, and are going to be a dynamic duo in strengthening that relationship.
There is some unusual situations that Israel is facing as a result of October 7th of 23. Hostages still being held. A lot of people don't realize the hostages being held in Gaza have been held longer than the hostages that the Iranian regime took over in 1979. So this has gone on way too long. President Trump said if Hamas doesn't release the hostages, they will have hell to pay. What do you think that would look like, Matt?
Well, I think I'm not sure that we're going to ever see what that will look like, because the beauty of Donald Trump, much in the same way that we saw with Ronald Reagan, I think just the threat and the fear that exists about President Trump with Hamas and Hezbollah and with the Iranians is going to be enough to get a deal. I don't know when the show is going to air, but when we're taping it, I think they're pretty far along right now on negotiations. And I have every expectation and hope and prayer that the hostages are released prior to January 20th. But if they're not, the one thing that we know about Donald Trump is he doesn't bluff. And those, when he says there's going to be hell to pay, I think it's going to be a combination of him unleashing and giving Israel carte blanche to do whatever it needs to do military. I think crippling sanctions. I think not just on Hamas and Hezbollah and their bank accounts, but also I think it's going to hold other nation states who support these terrorist thugs accountable as well, and they're going to have a price to pay.
Until 1972, America was on the gold standard. And what that meant was that all of our dollars were actually backed up by physical gold. We changed that. And as a result, gold actually became worth a great deal more, because it means that it's going to hold value even when the dollar, due to inflation, begins to shrink. It's one of the reasons that owning physical gold and silver makes a whole lot of sense for people who want to protect their wealth, who want to protect the things that they've worked so hard for their entire lives. Well, if you're going to buy gold and silver, I recommend you buy it from American Hartford Gold. It's who guides me on buying gold and silver. They're the only precious metals company that I would recommend. Now, you can call or text and request a free, no-strings-attached gold and silver information kit from American Hartford Gold. Learn how to protect your nest egg with a tax-advantaged gold IRA. And you could get up to $15,000 worth of free silver on qualifying purchases. So call them at 844-417-1010 or text Mike to 998899 for a free information kit from American Hartford Gold. This past year has been a very tough year for the Jewish people. The insane and irrational protests on college campuses where these delightful young students whose parents were spending a fortune to send them to school were out there on the campus hollering from the river to the sea, basically calling for the annihilation of the entire nation of Israel. I mean, carrying Hamas flags after what they did to innocent civilians, I find it so repulsive, it's hard to even get my arms around it. Help me understand, Matt, the anti-Semitism that we have seen, the most blatant display of it since the Holocaust. What on earth is happening in our culture where hate has taken such an ugly, ugly turn?
No, I think you nailed. I think you nailed it, Governor. Look, for the first time ever in my lifetime, and for the first time for people in many generations, there is real fear. There is real anxiety among the Jewish community. Simply walking the streets of New York wearing a kippah or a Star of David, people are afraid that they're going to get physically attacked. College students on campuses are fearful of walking across the quads on their campus for being attacked both verbally and physically. This is unacceptable. And the reality is that in the guise of populism and progressivism, we have tolerated what is being said on college campuses, their support of the Palestinian cause from the river to the sea, as being free speech, and it is their progressivism, not that they're being anti-Semitic or anti-Israel, which they are, but that's why it's being tolerated. And Governor, when we as a nation start to tolerate the intolerable, that's when nations decline. And I think the one thing that President Trump made clear in this campaign, and one of the reasons that he did so well among Jewish voters, is that he made clear there's going to be a new sheriff in town, and that those students on these campuses, many of whom are here on foreign visas, if they want to traffic in this vile anti-Semitism, and if they want to physically and mentally torment and abuse Jewish students on campus, they're going to have their visas. They're going to have their visas withdrawn, and they're going to be sent back home where they belong. I mean, there's going to be a zero tolerance policy with this president, with Attorney General Pam Bondi, with Kash Patel at the FBI. We're going to make sure that this stuff comes to an end.
Personal safety has become a major concern. So wouldn't it be helpful to have a new and easy way to protect you and your loved ones? Well, one way to stop the threat without having to shoot and possibly kill someone is available. Hello, I'm Mike Huckabee, and I found exactly how to have full protection without lethal force. It looks like a gun, acts like a gun, but it shoots chemical irritants and kinetic rounds, not actual bullets. The name is Byrna, B-Y-R-N-A. Now imagine being able to protect yourself without the legal or moral concerns of carrying an actual firearm. The Byrna is legal in all 50 states. No background checks are required, and it can be shipped directly to your doorstep. Most importantly, it's built to immediately stop an attacker without taking a life. The peace of mind you have is free. It's easy to use and doesn't have the strong recoil that real guns have, and you don't need ear protection either. It's assembled by hand right here in the U.S., fully trusted by law enforcement, and oftentimes it only needs to be shown and not fired to turn an attacker away. Don't wait until something happens. Go to Byrna.com/Huckabee and learn more about this effective alternative to deadly force. 500,000 are out there already, and right now you'll get a special 10% discount too. That's Byrna with a Y, BYRNA.com/Huckabee. And don't feel vulnerable any longer.